special edition of Undisputed. We're only hours away from the big game on Fox, and we're going to get you all set here. All those last-minute tidbits you need to know to get you set for the big game. I'm Jen Hale. Welcome in. Good morning, Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp.
The moment is here. Good morning, Jen.
Mr. Sharp, allow me to disqualify myself right out of the box. As a lifelong diehard Dallas Cowboy fan, I hate the Philadelphia Eagles. I have since I was 10 years of age. But my Cowboys have been pretty tough to love of late, so maybe I can be remotely objective today about those lousy Eagles.
I mean, they've been to the Super Bowl 3 times since the last.
I know. Who knew?
I guess it's time for you to get a new team.
But we're still America's team.
And so?
I love America's
America's
team.
watching somebody else. How did it make you feel?
They would prefer to be watching the Cowboys.
That's not what they would prefer to be doing. I don't know who told you that.
Let's dive in, guys. There's so much to get to today to get everybody ready for this one. Let's start with our two quarterbacks, shall we? Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts both not only led their teams here to the Super Bowl, but a few nights ago at NFL Honors, Mahomes won the MVP, Hurts runner-up. Now, get this, including the playoffs, both teams are 16-3. Both offenses have scored 546 points, and both teams were, of course, the top seed in their respective conferences. No upsets this year. Shannon, who is more valuable to you, Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes?
Well, I feel very comfortable in saying neither team would be here without their respective quarterbacks, but I think it's a no-brainer. It's not even close. I think Patrick Mahomes is the more valuable of the player. I think the MVP award signifies that. I think he's asked to do a lot more. He has less talent around him, overall talent from a top to bottom, offense, defense, special teams, than what Jalen Hurts is working with. And that's not to take anything away from Jalen Hurts, because Jalen Hurts had to do the work. He had to put the time in to get better at throwing the football because his legs just wasn't going to be enough. And so he put the work in the offseason, and he got better at throwing the football. Hence, finishing second in the MVP voting signifies that he wasn't just a runner. He's also a great thrower of the football now, Skip. But if you look at his body of work, Mahomes' body of work, 10-3 in the postseason, 32 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Hurts is 2-1 in the postseason, 3 touchdowns, 2 MVPs. 2 interceptions, excuse me. But it's the body of work, it's the overall, the cumulative effect. If you look at the regular season, if you look at the postseason, the come-from-behind victories in the Super Bowl, the come-from-behind victories in the AFC Championship game, the come-from-behind in the wild card, in the divisional rounds, excuse me, not the wild cards, because he's never been in a wild card, because he's always had home field advantage throughout.
Yes.
So when you look at that body of work, 5 straight AFC Championship games, all of them at home, 3 Super Bowl in those 5 years, 2 MVPs in those 5 seasons, 2 5,000-yard seasons in those 5 seasons. I think it's a no-brainer. And this is not a knock. Sometimes, Skip, when you say this guy is better than that guy, people think that you're kicking the other guy. That's not the case. I'm not saying that Jalen Hurts isn't valuable. He's very valuable to the Philadelphia Eagles, but I don't believe he's more valuable not only to his team, but to the NFL than Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is the top dog. He's been the top dog for a period of time, and I don't see that changing for the foreseeable future.
By the way, little known fact, you mentioned Patrick Mahomes' playoff record. Would you believe Patrick Mahomes has never won a road playoff game? Because he's never played a road playoff game.
You know how good you got to be to have all
I guess so. 5 straight AFC Championship games at home.
So what does that mean? I've had the best record in the AFC. That's what it means.
Tom Brady, 7-4 on the road in playoff games. But that's water under the bridge.
Well, if he was the best player, he shouldn't have no go on the road.
Yeah. Shannon Sharp, you said this was a no-brainer. So I must have no brains. I will disqualify myself up front. I have no brains.
Little.
I'm sorry, but I believe that you and a whole lot of others out there are overrating Patrick Mahomes, in part because of his no-looks and his left-handed passes and his behind-the-back passes and between-the-leg passes and all of his globetrotter passes that make up Mahomes' magic. And I honor all of the above, but I think it misleads people, it blinds people to the facts. I believe that in the very biggest games, Patrick Mahomes has not been Brady-esque. In his 2 Super Bowls, very little known fact, maybe I'm the only one that noticed this, but would you believe that in his 2 Super Bowls that he has played, Patrick Mahomes has thrown a grand total of 2 touchdown passes against 4 interceptions? That's 2 to 4, and that is not exactly Brady-esque. So in that first Super Bowl, He was very fortunate to win against San Francisco because he threw 2 late interceptions, which I'll get to in a few minutes here. But he had a whole lot of assistance from the other quarterback, Jimmy G, as in Jimmy Gagg, who played a horrendous fourth quarter, or I believe Patrick Mahomes would be 0-2 in these Super Bowls. And, of course, he lost head-to-head against Brady 31-9, and he pretty much stunk. In fact, I'll go all, but by his MVP standards, he stunk in his second Super Bowl game. So he's been the QBR king as Patrick Mahomes in his 5 seasons of starting quarterback during the regular season. And number one. Well, he's led the league over the last 5 seasons with a cumulative average of 77. Would you believe in his 2 Super Bowls? His average QBR, that scale of 0 to 100, is 53. That's just a tick above average. And even though he did lead the NFL and QBR once again this regular season, and I congratulate him on the regular season MVP that he did win, I'll say it again. I believe Jalen Hurts had a little more valuable regular season and should have won the MVP. And you say, well, you can't argue with Mahomes' numbers. Well, yeah, you know, I actually can, because obviously Jalen got hurt late in the season. He missed 2 games to Patrick's playing all 17, and that's why, in the end, Jalen lost the MVP and finished runner-up. But, again, think about this. Mahomes averaged 38 pass attempts per game this year through 17 games. Jalen Hurts averaged 31 pass attempts, but would you believe they both completed 67% of their attempts?
Yes.
And would you believe that they both, per completion, averaged exactly 12.1 yards per completion?
Yes.
So 67% and 12.1 would tell you that when Jalen did throw the ball, he was just as good as Patrick Mahomes. But there's a big difference here, because Jalen Hurts ran for 760 yards in just 15 games.
He did?
And would you believe that Patrick Mahomes ran in 17 games for 358? So 760 to 358. So Jalen's the much better and more effective and impactful runner than Patrick.
So one guy, Jalen Hurts, threw the ball 31 times a game. Patrick Mahomes threw the ball 38 times a game. Now I need to go to touchdowns. How many passes did Jalen Hurts throw for? How many touchdowns did Patrick Mahomes throw for?
Okay, I'll just sum it up this way for you, because Jalen scored a whole bunch of touchdowns with his legs, 13 of them.
He did. So if I average, if I put together Jalen Hurts touchdowns throwing and passing, would he have more touchdowns than Patrick Mahomes throwing and passing?
Only
throwing and
slightly,
rushing.
because in the games that they played, Patrick averaged 2.6 touchdowns per game. Jalen was 2.3, so he was just a tick behind. 2.3 touchdowns behind, okay? 2.3 per game, and he played 15 games to 17 games, right? Okay, so let's go back to degree of difficulty here. Preseason, Patrick Mahomes' team, even without Tyreek, having lost Tyreek, had the 3rd best Super Bowl odds going into the season.
Correct.
Well, Jalen's team had the 13th best Super Bowl odds. So wouldn't you think it would be much harder, longer odds for Jalen to do what he did for his team than what Patrick did for his? We pretty much expected Patrick to be pretty to very good.
But nobody expected him to be that good, considering you took away a guy that was an all-pro. You took away that guy. But Jalen Hurts also added A.J. Brown. They also added Hassan Reddick. Now, I want you to tell me the big-time free agent additions that Patrick Mahomes got. Patrick Mahomes had 13 guys have at least 1 catch that went for 20 yards or more. He had 9 guys that had at least 15 catches. He said he was going to be the same Patrick Mahomes, but it was going to look a lot different. They don't have quick strike, big play capabilities like they had with Tyreek Hill. Skip, this is not to diminish Jalen Hurts, but if you look at the body, you said 31 to 38 pass attempts. Hurts had 31. Patrick Mahomes. But look at the passing yards. He's almost 2 grand ahead of him.
Okay. Yet, you being a Hall of Fame tight end, you neglected to mention that Patrick is throwing to the greatest pass-catching tight end in NFL history named Travis Kelce.
Yes.
Am I right about that?
Yes.
You neglected to mention that this year, after all of your rants and raves and excuses that you made for Patrick in the past, especially against Brady in the Super Bowl, Patrick had the #1 offensive line pass block win rate this year. Best protection in the league belonged to Patrick Mahomes.
But he got sacked less than Brady.
Okay.
I mean, he got sacked more than Brady.
Okay.
With the best pass
What
blocking.
do you always tell me? Scramblers get sacked more than pocket passers, and he is by instinct a scrambler. He loves to play backyard throw on the run football, right? Okay. And by the way, wouldn't you think that Patrick benefited from one of the greatest offensive minds in the history of this game, belonging to one Andy Reid, Big Red? Wouldn't you say he benefited?
Yes.
Does anybody even know who calls plays for Jalen Hurts? It's Shane Steichen. Who even knows? I didn't even hear his name during Super Bowl week brought up because nobody cares. Andy Reid, Shane Steichen, Andy Reid, Shane Steichen. I think I'm going to give a big advantage to Andy Reid in this game.
Well, Skip, can I go back to something that you said earlier? You said Patrick Mahomes has thrown 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. If you don't mind me asking, how many touchdowns have Jalen Hurts thrown in the Super Bowl?
None. We're about to find out. You're about to see 3 today.
So in his second year, Patrick Mahomes' second year, he went to the Super Bowl. This is Jalen Hurts' third year, right? So in his second year starting. Patrick Mahomes' second year starting, he was in his second Super Bowl.
Okay.
So you're trying to tell me that
Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. Wow.
Hold on. They had all those same guys when they had Alex Smith calling the plays. Andy Reid called plays.
Okay.
Tyreek Hill was there. Travis Kelce. Nobody. And this is not to take a shot at my nephew because I think he's spectacular. And I told you, Skip, 3 years ago.
You got a lot of nephews, man.
I do.
Another.
I do. Got Michael too now.
Okay.
You heard Michael?
Micah?
Yeah, Michael called me on. You ain't see him?
How about Kevin Durant? Is he now your nephew?
Yeah. He called me on too. He called me on too. Skip. Travis Kelce never got mentioned in the GOAT tight end conversation until Patrick Mahomes came along over the last 5 years.
But we're about to talk about this. He credits Andy Reid for most of the above. For his success, he said it's Big Red, okay? Again, you have a 1-2 punch in Andy and Patrick.
I think the thing is, Skip, is that Andy took a special liking to this kid. He called him. He thought he was special.
Yeah.
He said, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Put your brother on the phone. I'm not going to have any problems with this kid, Emma. He said, nope, you're not going to have any problems with him. So I think that
Jason
minute, he put his older brother Jason on the phone,
right.
who Andy drafted when he